And we're live.
And we're live. Good morning, everyone. Or depending where you are, that's really what it is. So, cool. We've got an action-packed group here. We're doing the Oracle OpenWorld wrap-up, and we've got Dr. Natalie, wave hi.
Hey, Howie.
Holger Mueller, wave hi. And Guy, which you'll see a picture
Hello,
of.
everybody.
Hello. Yeah, I'm having a bad hair day.
I curled my hair this morning. I want to see your hair.
No, bad hair day.
I got
I've got more product than all of you guys combined. Hey, I've got more product than all of you guys combined. So, hey, this is great. So we just came back from Oracle OpenWorld, 60,000 attendees, 7.1 million views on stop in terms of online, looking at the presentations. Lots of stuff going on, lots of announcements. And what we're going to try to cover is different viewpoints from the customer experience side of the house, supply chain side of the house, retail, what happened on Fusion middleware, HCM, and just general impressions. So, but let's start real quickly. Holger, jumping to you. I mean, just give me your impression. Was this? I mean, you've been to what, maybe like 10 Oracle OpenWorlds. What'd you say? On a scale of 1 to 10, where does this OpenWorld fit in the big scheme of things?
I think it's an exciting one, right? I mean, Oracle's vision of the integrated red tech stack has never come as close as today, right? I mean, they were exciting ones before. I don't want to take anything away from previous ones like thin client and so on, internet architecture and so on, internet data. From the pure breadth of what Oracle had in terms of announcements, I mean, you couldn't keep overview of the press releases. From the pure functionality and pieces announced, I think this was the most staggering OpenWorld yet.
All right, Natalie, what do you think? Scale 1 to 10. Where does this fit?
I think it was an 8. I think it was really good, and I agree with Holger. I mean, there were a lot of announcements. I cover CX, and there's a lot of things that Oracle's clearly trying to buy and integrate to make better customer experiences for their customers. So, the devil's always in the details. I hope that everything integrates well.
Got it. Guy, your first impressions? You've been to a lot of these as well. Scale 1 to 8. Where to 1 to 10? Where do you find these guys?
Oh well, yeah. I'll give it a 7.5 just because instead of an 8, I thought it was a little too warm for me in some of the rooms, but that's just my issue.
Yeah.
But overall, no. I think it was, from my standpoint, being the first time I've gone to Oracle World, but obviously I've been to a lot of these different conferences. I thought it was very exciting what I saw from the retail, the CPG, and the supply chain side. I was actually very pleasantly surprised with some of the things they announced, and more importantly, some of the ways they were talking about their solutions going forward. I think obviously, like both Natalie and Holger said, the proof being the pudding. See what happens over the next few months. But I do think there's some exciting things in those spaces. I just hope that they put enough wood behind that arrow to really take advantage of it.
Got it. Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've been to a number of these. I think there have been a lot of doozers, some really bad partner keynotes in the past where people were falling asleep, even people leaving. So I think, from an execution perspective, these guys have done a pretty good job for once in terms of making the whole thing fit, from program to execution to partners working to even the hard stuff like getting meals on time, getting logistics in place. So, but let's cut deep now. Let's really talk about what people were trying to do and what's kind of changed. I mean, I think if you think about the Oracle customer base, it's been traditionally die-hard red stack. People started with apps and databases and worked their way up and custom built stuff all the way across the stack. Then there's been people that are Oracle customers by accident. These are folks who bought best of breed, and suddenly Oracle bought out all the companies they worked with. And then there's a whole bunch of new customers that really are just trying to figure out, hey, who Oracle is. And so we've got a mix of customers in there, and then all these acquisitions that are in place that are on top of what Oracle's building organically. I'll start with you, Natalie. What's changed for CX in Oracle's customers?
Well, I would say that Oracle's done a really good job at looking at what needs to happen for the customer experience. So if you define that as marketing, sales, and service, what they've done, especially for marketing, is Eloqua, BlueKai, Responses, Compendium, ReadyTalk, Virtue, and Right Now. So they've acquired all these different pieces, and they say they're integrating them. What I'm really looking for down the road is some customers that have actually integrated these, and not just 1 or 2 customers that are handheld, but all, a bunch of customers that are actually using all these pieces. Now, when I talk to, to Ackroyd or to Andrea, it sounds like they're doing a really good job. They're paying attention. They know that they have a reputation for buying stuff and not really integrating it. So from what I can see, it looks like they're doing a good job. I mean, there were customers there from General Motors to smaller companies, and I look forward to seeing more.
Got it. Does it seem like it's integrated? Because the customers I talk to, most are only using one or two pieces.
That's kind of what I got too, Ray. I think they would like it to appear that it's completely integrated, but as having been in this industry for a very long time and having been a systems integrator, I know it's a really difficult thing to make happen, and it does take time. It does take time to make the adapters and all the things connect. And I want nothing more than to see a vendor actually create an amazing customer experience across marketing, sales, and service, and create that loyal customer who becomes an advocate who makes referrals. I've been writing about this for a very long time, and I would really like to see Oracle win.
All right, well, hey, I'm going to jump to Holger. Holger, I mean, HCM's a different story, right? I mean, they've organically built this. They've got the PeopleSoft legacy, the HCM legacy, the big buy from Taleo, but they haven't picked up that many other HR assets. Looks like they're building them on their own. What's the state? What's changed since last year? Oop, Holger? Oh, have we lost everybody?
I'm still here.
I'm here.
All right. Looks like Holger may have dropped out, but Guy, let me talk to you about what's going on. I mean, you've been looking at supply chain, retail, looking at where this intersection of matrix commerce has been happening for a while. I mean, what's changed with Oracle? What's going on with them?
I think, Ray, from a supply chain standpoint, and I sort of lump retail and CPG also into that. I know they separate them, but what I was interested in seeing and what I did see, and I think it's nothing. I don't say anything new, but I think it's a continuation of what I think is a very positive strategy for Oracle, and that is their ability really to take a lot of these individual systems and solutions and not hesitate to go in and sell them sort of as point solutions, right? So they spend a lot of time talking about their TMS and their global trade management system, some of their advanced planning systems and supply chain, things of that nature. And to Natalie's point, I think they're talking about trying to get the fully integrated end-to-end solution, and even tying into the marketing side, right? To understand a happy customer needs to have products on the shelf at the right time, the right place, and the right size, and all that good stuff. But at the same point, they also recognize that that's a journey that's going to take a long time. And to be honest, I don't think a journey that has a true final destination. So in order to continue to innovate, what they're doing, which I thought was great, and I've heard this before, but they just reinforced it, was their willingness to go in and sell, some of their solutions to address specific parts of the supply chain, and then not worry about, getting the whole pie, so to speak. And I think in supply chain in particular, I think that's the way these companies have to proceed, because we're talking about obviously very complex systems with outside partners, with outside data, with customers, multiple customers, customers of customers, suppliers of suppliers, things of that nature. And I think that's a daunting task. So I think from that standpoint, I think it's a good reinforcement of what I've known about Oracle, and I think that's only something to continue to watch. I do think what's interesting, just a side note, what I've seen, which again is something to watch for, is their constant sort of mantra they seem to say, which was sort of an undertone, but about really getting data and analytics and power as close to the decision makers as possible. And that's whether that's a planner, whether that's a person on the floor of a store, things of that nature. I think that's something really that we're going to see more of moving forward. And that, again, what I've been saying, it sort of fits into what they said from Mainstage about the importance of cloud, big data, analytics, and all those good things. So to me, it's some of the high-level points that I saw over the last few days.
Got it. So basically, they've done a bunch of acquisitions to get here as well, from TMS to from Retech starting as that industry.
Demantra and all those other stuff.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, absolutely. Demantra and guys like that, they all pulled into their family, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, so they brought all that in. Does that look integrated, or are we still looking like at different pieces, all connected with, Oracle integration, point-to-point solutions along the way? Are customers buying multiple parts, or are they just buying one or 2 point solutions?
That's a great question, Ray. I feel it's a combination of all the above. I feel as if some of the older, more legacy solution, like Glog, which they bought, feels like a long time ago, has become really integrated into their transportation and global trade management systems. But from the retail side, they've been picking up so many different players. It feels as if they're still in the process of integrating them properly into the overall Oracle suite. But on the same side, I think in a way, keeping them sort of independent for a while, I believe, is actually a decent strategy. I just think it, again, like you take a retailer, for example, they might not want every single piece. They already have some of these guys in there, or other best-of-breed solutions, or, dare I say, from other big ERP players. So to be able to go in and sell a piece of it without sort of having the belief that you have to buy the whole stack, I think is working well for them. But at some point, yes, it has to continue to be, move towards full integration.
Yeah, no, it sounds like one of those situations. I mean, we've been seeing like Oracle keep pushing choice, right? You can buy it, keep it on its own, buy it in larger pieces, integrate it up the stack. That's been kind of what their strategy's been. So it sounds like that's what they're still doing there. But at least the good news is the older pieces seem to be more integrated. In terms of the older acquisitions, seem to be more integrated.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I know I talking to some of them, it sounds like they're going to, especially in the supply chain, do much more continual innovation on their own, which I think is also good. I just think they definitely have the IP, and I believe at some level, I didn't get this, but maybe this is sort of my impression where I would think is, if they start leveraging their other solutions, again, sort of like in Natalie's section around like customer service and customer experience, and marketing, and how to pull that back through the supply chain, I think is hugely valuable, because one of the things that I've seen a lot of is more and more supply chain vendors and supply chain people realizing that they need to be able to see into the customer, into marketing, to customer satisfaction, into all of that, because in the end, that's what drives a lot of their products and their business. And Oracle addressed that by saying, they're definitely thinking and working on that. So I think that's also positive.
Right, makes a lot of sense. For those of you just joining us, this is the Constellation Research post-Oracle OpenWorld wrap-up. We've got Guy Courtin, we've got Holger Mueller, and Dr. Natalie here all at once. Let's see if we still have Holger out here in San Diego. Can we get a signal from you? All right. So far, nothing from Holger yet. I think he's trying to jump in. But Holger, the one who initiated the Hangout, was spending a lot of time doing the HCM stuff, really understanding what was going on there. As people know, there's been a lot of core systems that have been sold on the HCM side, and we've seen a lot of good traction with Oracle in that space. And one of the things that I've been studying is really looking at the broader piece. We were actually attending the Fusion Middleware Day, and it was very interesting to watch the number of customers that were actually building on Fusion Middleware. It was quite interesting. People were building mobile apps. There was a large C-store company that was building all these geo-fenced mobile apps using the Fusion apps, wealth management companies, bankers, and so a lot of people were actually using the platform for a couple of reasons. One, because it was write once, deploy everywhere, but the other thing is these were dedicated. People on Fusion Middleware are dedicated Red Stack users, really taking advantage of the things that Oracle has been putting together. Okay, so going back quickly to Natalie, so what's going on with CX? What is so important about customer experience? I mean, this is campaign all the way to parts of commerce, but why do people care about CX, and why is Oracle making all these acquisitions?
Well, that's a really good question, Ray. I think that what's happened is the consumerization of IT, right? So what's happened really is that people have higher expectations of what they want from a company and how they want to be interacted with, and this whole idea around things like Facebook or social networks, it's created this expectation that we can have this instant connection with each other, with brands, and so now that experience people are looking for, they want it to be fun, they want it to be exciting, they want the brand to have some personality, and so that's a whole different experience, especially for marketers who used to just push out messages, and now marketers are being asked to not only create messages and push messages out, but also talk to the people. So that requires a completely different strategy, and as well, completely different. Well, there's my kitty cat. Say hi, sweetheart. Please don't do that. A completely different. Sorry, she loves the camera, and she misses me when I'm gone a lot. I think back to what I was saying is that this idea that we really, and we've been wanting to do this, Ray, you know, you and I, we've all been in this business a long time. Customers don't think about, oh, I'm going to call marketing and ask a question. I'm going to call sales and ask, should I buy this or should I buy that? They don't call customer service thinking, you know, that I am going to call a particular department. They want that experience from beginning to end to be seamless, to be interesting, to be fun, and that's what's going to create the loyalty. And I think that, you know, I did a kind of a wrap-up blog post, and my last takeaway is pivot, you know, integrate, make changes, or get out of the way and let your competitors take care of your customers, because that's what customers want. They want to be taken care of.
Got it. Now, hey, Guy, on your end, what's going on? What is so hot on the supply chain side? I mean, are people still investing? Is this an area when you're talking to customers that were at the event? I mean, what drives this?
Yeah, I think, Ray, it's an interesting area because I think it kind of it's going through a transition right now where I think a lot of people are, I don't want to say not investing in supply chains. I think they are. I just think they're not investing it in the same way they did in the past. And what I mean by that is I think, you know, back in the glory days of I2 and Manugistics, you know, there was sort of this massive movement towards solutions that could really run your plan at, you know, 98% effectiveness, and that was going to solve the world's problems. I think we recognize that that's not going to happen, and you know, we all know that plans have one thing in common, is that they're all wrong. But you know, I think what I was impressed by what Oracle was talking about, what some of the customers were talking about in terms of their investment with Oracle, was much more about almost sort of going back to the future and getting their house in order. What I mean by that is getting their data in order, getting all the information they need to do better planning, to do better execution in order. And I think that's one area where obviously the Oracle stack and what Oracle has to bring, you know, gives them an advantage where they can get and pull a lot of this data from a lot of different systems in a lot of different areas, and be able to give a more holistic or true view of what's going on in your business. And I think the customers are getting there. Now, I think the customers are getting there also with, again, a healthy dose of caution and a grain of salt, which is they realize this is hard, they realize it takes a long time, they realize it's going to need them to work closely with their partners, but they have to get there. You know, one of them, I think it was the gentleman from Sony, said, you know, talking about working with Oracle and their S&OP process, he said, yeah, it's a daunting process, but you better start doing it and thinking about it because your competition is. And I think that was well said. There's no one size fits all. There's no easy solution to this stuff, but you better start working on it and figuring out the pieces you can start handling now, because, you know, as we know, the data issue is only going to get more intense. And when it comes to supply chain guys, you know, data is the lifeblood, right? I think you can't get to that granularity. You know, someone else talked about the manufacturing process getting down, you know, 14, 15 levels down to BOM. Things of that nature, I think, are very important. And I think if you don't have that foundation, then you're going into it blind. And I think
So basically, you're saying Oracle customers are actually getting the blocking and tackling, the basics out of the way. That's the feeling that you got. And a lot of people have been doing that. They've been working on the edges and not focusing on the core. That's kind of what you're saying here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Thanks for making it so succinct. But yes, it's the Oracle guys are the customers I talk to, you know, are working on that blocking tackling, because you're right. The shiny new ball is great, but if you don't have that foundation, it doesn't do you no good.
Right. Is that any different from what the SAP customers are working on, or people that are, you know, working on Manhattan or other places? I mean, are they also doing the blocking and tackling, or is this just unique to that Oracle customer base?
You know, I think I don't want to say it's unique to Oracle. I think I think they're all approaching it a little bit differently. I think, you know, having spent some time with SAP earlier this year, I think their customers are going back to the future, if you will. You know, going back to reassessing their blocking and tackling before they start adding new feature function and new cool analytics, if you will. And I think it's all different approaches. You know, some of the more best-of-breed vendors, I think, are approaching it from a different angle, where they're saying, hey, we understand that's the need, so we're going to now make the data you already have better and more intelligent, if you will. and again, it goes back to the blocking and tackling, right? If the information you have and the data you're pulling is garbage in, garbage out, and we all know if your plan's already wrong to start with, if the garbage in is bad, man, that plan's going to be even worse. So that's where we go from.
Yep, no, totally. That makes a lot of sense. We see Holger Mueller trying to join us back again. Let's see if we got him in San Diego. Holger, can you say something? See if you're out there. All right, we're still having technical difficulty with Holger. Holger's the one who actually set up this event, and we can't seem to lose him. It's something to do with this Google Plus. We've been having a lot of issues lately. But okay, this is good. We're seeing different perspectives here. I know Holger was out at HCM, out at the Palace. I mean, lots of things going on there. He just did his 10 trends for HCM in a digital world, looking at the different things that were happening, as definitely looking at where globalization was happening, what was happening in terms of how people were changing the way they were recruiting, changing the way we were looking at talent. We saw a lot of that, and I think Holger talked to a lot of customers on that front. On the middleware side, I would say, why is middleware so important? There's actually two arguments I've been hearing about this. On one hand, we're actually seeing a class of customers that say, you know what? Forget the middleware. We don't need this abstraction layer. That was there because when compute was hard and we had to connect to all these different machines. Why do we need that layer anymore? And then on the other hand, we got this whole other side where we're seeing all these customers actually look at Oracle Fusion Middleware as the way to extend their applications. People were going deep trying to understand, how could they take advantage of the 12c database platform, how they could stream certain things around data as a service, how they could tie this all back to what was going on with mobile app development. And we did see a lot of very interesting things. One of the things that was really astonishing was going into the UX lab. There was a UX lab that was set up, and you could see where Oracle was thinking about different paradigms, really thinking about where consumerization of IT was trying to match back to what enterprise applications could look like. So anything from that to what was going on with BLE, that whole BLE lab. Did you make that out there, Guy or Natalie? Did you guys see anything there?
Yeah, I did see that, and I thought that was really interesting and really forward-thinking because that is what customers expect. And being on the CX side of things, really that's what people expect apps to look like, or the integration or interaction with a company. So that they're thinking about that, I think, is really important, because what that says to me is they actually have the customer in mind. Before, a lot of companies and software companies were building things based more centric to them versus centric to the customer and the customer experience. And one of the things I was most impressed with Oracle was they kept saying they wanted to be the one that you come to. They want to be the one that really is the one that's going to help you through this transition, to assess what you have, assess what you need, assess the gaps, and help you build this the right way. So I was really impressed with that. Having been a systems integrator, it's not an easy job.
Yeah, no, that's very cool stuff. Guy, did you make your way up there? Were you able to see the UX lab?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't. So it sounds like I missed out on that.
So, let's move on to the retail CPG front, right? I mean, that is very specialized. We're seeing Oracle definitely focus in on a number of industries. I mean, I had a chance to step into some of the public sector discussions and a little bit on what was going on with high-tech manufacturing. But what happened in the CPG retail side?
Sure. So what's interesting is then they mirrored a lot of what I've been hearing out there. The general theme with the retail and CPG side is I think what we all are aware of is the shift in power, so to speak, away from retailers and CPG companies and into the hands of the consumer. And more subtly, also, there's a shift of power, not a shift of power, but a changing voice, if you will, where CPG manufacturers now are able to build direct one-to-one relationships with the consumer, so almost bypassing that retail channel. And I think it's an interesting, something that we've seen in the retail CPG side for a good amount of time now, and it's coming to a slow boil, if you will. I think we've only seen the beginning of it and where it's going to shift business models and things like that. And I know, Ray and I, you and I have talked about this in terms of the matrix commerce side, right? It's definitely an intersection point, I think, between the commerce supply chain and the consumer. Whether the consumer is, any of us sitting here as consumers who go down the street and go to Kroger or Target, as well as when GE has to buy a turbine for one of their wind farms. And I think what Oracle has, again, going back to this notion of pushing down data, information, analytics down to the sort of closest touch point they can. I think they recognize, like for example, in retail, right? They gave an example of a company that sells high-end kitchenware and things of that nature, and they discussed being able to use their retail platform to push down, customer preferences and personas all the way down to the store manager on the floor through their handheld, through their tablet, and all this. And what it showed was an ability to really understand the customer and where they fit in the supply chain, so to speak, and where the touch points are and how to sell to them, how to get the uplift and all those good things. So I think that's very interesting to continue to watch. And they're not obviously the only ones doing that, but I think if they can harness sort of the power of all the things they have behind it around the cloud and big data and all that, I think it's an interesting perspective and angle. The second one from a CPG side, there's a lot of talk around empowering the CPG. Again, same thing, to get more information into the hands of like their brand managers and things like that, to make better decisions, to have better visibility into promotions and things of that nature, and demand signal repositories, all those good things. The one thing for me, Ray, which I take away from, which will be interesting to hear from Oracle is while there's a shift obviously in the power structure, so to speak, it doesn't mean it. I think it's changing a lot on the landscape. I also think it's bringing new business opportunities for the retailers and the CPG guys and the consumers. And the question is, in a way, Oracle was addressing it and looking at it very much, I would say, in a traditional manner. The question is, where do we go from here as the systems catch up to this sort of matrix commerce shift, and how does the business behavior and all that change? And I think that's something that we'll have to look at and watch for. But they're definitely empowering sort of that journey, and I think that's what's exciting about it.
Got it. Okay, we're going to try something different here. We're going to try to reach into Holger through chat. He's been trying to get back in here. Some very funky bugs here with Google+. So Holger, the question I had for you was really about what's changed in HCM for Oracle customers. We'll see if we can pull that from you on the chat. If you respond, we'll see how quickly you type, because I think it's very important. A lot of customers. I think Holger's saying here his answer: customer uptake. He's surprised to see over 200 customers are live, and what he really saw was a new UI for performance management and benefits, some changes in reputation management. So I think those are some good stuff. So thanks for jumping in here, Holger, on the chat. The other question we have is why do people care about HCM today? Why is it so important? I mean, all these folks. I mean, the whole Sheraton Palace was filled and packed with people just worrying about HR, HCM, and HCM tech. So what do you have there on that side, Holger? See what you on the chat. One of the things that we noticed was that we are in the middle of a 20 to 25 year replacement cycle for HR tech. So I mean, it's been one of these things that have shifted broad. And so I think one of the things that we keep seeing as well in other areas, especially public sector, there's a lot of interest going on, whether it was in academics for grant management, whether it was people trying to figure out how to move things around in terms of like just new reporting, accounting areas. I've found a lot of interest among customers for loyalty along alumni on the public sector side, which was kind of interesting to me, where people are trying to make sure that alumni are engaged even after they graduate, which was huge. Going back to Holger here, I think a couple things that he's saying, some new things that were going on was really expense. So he sees that people, and the reason HCM is so hot is that people are the largest expense for a lot of companies. It's the heart of a lot of the future challenges and transformations. He sees that also with the on the globalization side. This is a big area on digital. So. On the question of what has Oracle done to invest in HCM, over 2,000 product organization members, partner enablements, large SI enablements, no longer just K-based, but Deloitte. He's seeing a lot of folks jump in and other system integrators in the pace. So I think this is a big piece, and digital transformation is also there. So thanks a lot, Holger, for adding to the chat. We're going to wrap up pretty quickly, and I think, Holger, just so you have out there, if you've got tips for HCM customers and tips on the app dev, hold on those, but put them in the chat. We'll catch you there. Guy, what's going on? What are 5 tips you would say to people on a supply chain about Oracle that they should think about? And then we'll move to retail as well and CPG. So, Guy, go ahead.
Sure. From a retail perspective, I think keep an eye on how they're migrating some of their apps into the cloud. So they talked a lot about their TMS and trade management moving up into the cloud. According to my conversations, this is not a light version. This will be the full-blown version, but keep an eye on that. Same thing with some of their supply chain planning apps going up to the cloud. Again, I think those will be very targeted towards the mid-market and even divisions of larger companies, which I think is a good strategy. I think finally for supply chain, how are they going to play in terms of developing a data platform that can pull data from a lot of different places and feed it into these applications? I think it's something to keep a strong eye on. If you want to talk about retail and CPG,
let's talk about retail and CPG. I love that. I love those two industries.
So I think from a retail perspective, it's going to be interesting to see where they go in terms of moving outside of sort of where they are today, which is around a lot of traditional retail, goods, things of that nature. Where do they go from there? Do they continue to build on that strength? I think they have opportunities. What do they do with grocery, things like that? Again, not an easy nut to crack, so to speak, but is it something they go into? I think with CPG, for me, in a strange way, what I would say is to be more aware of what they're doing. To be honest with you, I never really thought of Oracle being that strong in that space, but from what I saw, clearly they have
brands there. I mean, there are lots of brands there actually.
Yeah. Some huge brands, some very good stories, touching all the aspects of what CPGs are trying to deal with around demand, around better view into even things like promotional calendars, things like that. So some really good stories, which I think I don't want to say unfortunate, but I think they have an opportunity to get more out there. Because I think it is a ripe space for someone like Oracle to make more hay, and I think CPGs are absolutely coming around to the need to be more proactive with their customers. So I think something to watch for is how does Oracle help that, and really how does Oracle's CPG clients manage that transition, and in a way, like I said earlier, how do things shift with the balance of power between CPG, retail channel, consumer? And I think that's something to watch for. And I think Oracle seems to be well positioned to sort of empower those 3 channels. Question is now, how they help with the business process and the change management and all those things.
All right. Well, Natalie, on your end, CX, lots of things happening there. What are 5 tips, couple tips, doesn't have to be 5, that you have for CX customers and prospects about Oracle?
I think the 5 tips for me are, 1, look at what you got, look at what you're doing, look at individual departments first, see what kind of technology, people, process you have, and then look at, are you actually integrating them across marketing, sales, and service, and if not, what are those gaps, and how are you going to try to fill those gaps? I think once a company gets a good handle on what they have and what they don't have, and looks at that gap management, now they can start to really create a good experience. And I think the very last step is my piece of advice: if you're not interested in this, if you're not interested in creating a great experience, there's really 2 choices: pivot, shift, and change, or get out of the way so your competitor can take care of your customer.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. We saw some very interesting things with the Oracle Sales Cloud. A lot more adoption than people realize. A lot of different use cases. People were choosing Sales Cloud for a couple of reasons. Mobile was a big reason. Outlook integration, having territories was a good reason, and really integrating back a lot of J.D. Edwards to Oracle Sales Cloud conversions. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well to point out. Oh, from Holger, here we go. We got some great tips here on the chat side. He said, these are the 5 tips you have. Understand and test the recruiting functionality. Do you think it's good enough yet? Try to keep the UIs consistent for user groups and understand when that will happen. Align a rollout plan with the roadmap. Oracle gives release +2, so see if Oracle will push out a little further. And then compare SIs. Can you move yourself in-house, do it yourself in-house, move faster and cheaper, or work than the SIs can do it? And then also check out auxiliary applications that raise engagement, like the work-life balance and the reputation product. And that's actually a great point. Some of the stuff in Oracle Social Network is embedded throughout all the applications in the middleware. So a lot of the applications are taking advantage of that, and you're seeing people move through there. On my end, actually, some interesting observations. We saw some very interesting usages of Blue Kai and what is their data as a service product. They are getting into the data business, aggregating information and content from all over the place, and bringing it together so that they can actually burst insights internally. So they're partnering up with other data providers to do that, and they're also providing an aggregation framework to allow people to add their data sources as needed. So some very interesting developments on that end. Let's see. All right. I guess the last question I'm going to say is really about what research are you working on? So I'll start with you, Dr. Natalie. What's going on? What kind of stuff are you writing about, and what's getting you excited? And then we'll wrap this up.
Well, Ray, thanks for asking. You know, I'm really looking at CX. I'm looking at marketing. I'm looking at marketing optimization, and not just automation, but optimization. I want to really see marketers, CMOs turn into the chief revenue officer. So not just, you know, running campaigns, but actually giving insights to the rest of the business, to executives, and really understanding what is really happening with your customers and making better decisions based on all this data integration. Looking at sales, you know, having real relationships with people, not just selling people stuff to sell stuff and then moving on and not being responsible for what you've sold, because, you know, a brand creates a promise in marketing and then sales, and then customer service is the one that has to deliver it. So I'm looking not only at each of those individual pieces, but I'm looking at how are we going to integrate all these pieces so that we can get very loyal, very adamant customers, advocates who drive loyalty, who drive referrals, and increase that customer lifetime value. And that's really, you know, that's the stuff that I've been writing about for years. And I love case studies. I'd love to actually see this stuff in action and really working.
Got it. Holger, we'll get to you if you can drop in the things that you're working on. Guy, what are you up to? You just joined us. You know, you've been on the ground. You've been hitting it hard. We've got you on a number of different things, and what's hot on your research list, other than what I'm waiting, what I have to edit and I'm late on, actually.
All right, I won't mention that. No, actually, yeah, the big one obviously is the Matrix Commerce, which I mentioned earlier, and I'm really excited about that. I know you and I have gone back and forth on it, and I think what I'm looking for moving forward from that piece is to really hone in on specific areas of Matrix Commerce and what it means for you know, the commerce supply chain as well as the consumer. And, you know, those three sort of buckets, I'll give you the quick highlight. The first part is, you know, the upfront part where it's the demand management, demand capture side of the business, right? So when is it that the consumer or a business finds a demand or a need for a service or a product? The second big sort of touch point, obviously, is the fulfillment side, and that's everything that we know, you know, we're calling omni-channel. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's you know, where do we intersect in terms of how do we get the product into the hand of the consumer and all the things that go around it, right? So payment systems, verification, delivery, all those good things. And the final part, which I think I'm in a strange way the most excited about, and I think it's something which I find interesting. Just I'm not hearing a lot of discussion about, but I think is vital for this whole side is really the after sales part. So that's everything from, you know, customer service to warranty to spare parts, but also to like end of life. There was a really interesting article in The Economist a few weeks ago about just the massive amounts of waste we put out there from our computers and our phones and all that. And I think as more and more products become smarter, we're only going to become more, you know, entrenched in this problem of how do we get rid of end-of-lifing these things. And it does have a big impact on the supply chain, right? A lot of these products, depending on how you do it, can be recycled, reused, and, you know, lower your costs. But I also believe that the end-of-life, the after-sales portion of the Matrix Commerce is, in reality, just the beginning of a new process of selling you something else, right? Selling you on that brand experience and trying to sell you something else. So that's what I'm working on. I'm really excited about it, and I think some other ancillary stuff is around how, you know, the Internet of Things is impacting this. You know, how devices are throwing off so much information now. How that data really impacts it. So yeah, so I'm excited about that, and looking forward to getting your comments back, Ray.
We will. I'll definitely get back to you on this over the weekend. We'll have some things out on Matrix Commerce. Holger's got next-gen apps, intelligent recruiting, cross-benefits, and talent management, like transboarding. But he has no guarantee to deliver these. So no, just kidding. But he's basically that's what he's working on. Some globalization. Hopefully the 9 Ps of the Chief People Officer, or 10 Ps. We'll get there. But I thought I'd throw that in for him. On my end, we're actually working on something with Holger. We've been interviewing something like probably about 50, 60 companies around digital business, what their trends are, where they're headed, trying to define what that next-gen application architecture looks like. We'll be using that as a digital reference design point, and I think that will drive a lot of the other stuff we're doing. Got some case studies around cloud integration. We've got some other big things that are going out on our end. That are tied back to business models and digital. So that's kind of where we are. For those of you who want to get more of this, you can always follow us on CR Chat. The Constellation handle is @ConstellationRG. But more importantly, October 29th to October 31st, we have Constellation's 4th Annual Connected Enterprise, where you'll see all of us live. You'll see a lot of interesting speakers. We've got Rachel Botsman, who's going to be resetting the sharing economy, talking about what it's for, not just for startups or not just for price gouging, as one way to look at that. We also got David Pogue, if you remember him. He was at the New York Times doing the tech column. He's now at Yahoo Tech. He'll be out there as a keynote. We also have Raj Chetty, Harvard economist, talking about the equality of opportunity. And then, of course, we've got Scoble, who's going to be walking down from Half Moon Bay. He lives about like 10 blocks over. So he'll be walking down over talking about the age of context. And we also have John Hagel, who will be talking about innovation and talking about what's next at our Supernova Awards dinner. So lots of folks, lots of great companies, about 250 people, all at the Half Moon Bay Ritz, and you can find everything you need at the ConstellationR.com website. So hey, thank you very much, everyone. This is the Oracle Open World Wrap-Up with Holger Mueller remotely on chat, Guy Gorting from Boston, and Doc Natalie from you're in West LA, Marina Del Rey. So that's it, and I'm here in Monte Vista, Cupertino. So take care, and hope everyone has a great one.